Hola amigos, hoy vamos a repasar los verbos que cambian, your stem changing verbs. So I'll give you a second to open up your chapter 1.1 packets to your stem changing verbs section. It should follow what we did last video, which was on gustar. So I want you to think about it for a second about why we call these stem changing verbs boot verbs. Hopefully you can tell me. It is because these verbs change in every form except for nosotros. So that when we draw a box around the verbs that do change, we end up drawing sort of a boot shape, right? Because the yo form changes, the to form changes, the la usted changes, and the eos, eas, ustedes changes. But nosotros does not take that spelling change. The stem does not change. So that's why we call them boot verbs, like you saw on the page before. Okay, so let's talk about how many different kinds of stem changing verbs there are in the present tense. There are four. There are four different kinds of stem changers in the present tense. So we're going to just write in four. Hay cuatro tipos de verbos que cambian de raíz. Okay, so now we're going to list the four different kinds of stem changing verbs. So we have O to UE. We have U to UE. We have E to IE. And then the last kind is E to I. Okay, so those are our four different types of stem changing verbs. So what do I mean by that? But what do I mean by stem changing verb? Let's break down the different parts of a verb. So if I have a verb like dormir, okay, dormir means to sleep. And we know how to find the ending of the verb because all verbs have to end in AR, ER, or IR. So this particular verb, dormir, ends in IR. So once I get rid of that ending, I'm left with what we call the stem of the verb. So the stem of dormir is dorm, D-O-R-M. So what it means when we have a verb that is stem changing is that the stem takes a spelling change. And like I said before, stem changing verbs in the present tense change everywhere except for nosotros. So this verb in particular happens to be an O to UE verb. So when I conjugate it, my new stem is going to be duerm. So in every single spot on our verb chart except for nosotros, I'm going to write duerm. Okay, but in nosotros, it's going to stay the same. It's going to stay as dorm. And then all I have to do is add my endings, and in this case, I'm using an IR verb, so I need IR endings. So I end up with duermo, duermes, duerme, dormimos, and I did not leave myself enough room, but it should be EN over here, duermen. Okay, so that's what it means to conjugate a stem changing verb. The stem is just taking a spelling change. Now what we're going to do on the next few pages here are fill in a few different verbs. We're going to fill in what they mean, and we're also going to conjugate them using our stem change. And you can see that these are all categorized by the way that they change. So all of the verbs on this page are going to be O to UE verbs. Then you have a page of E to IE. You have a page of E to I verbs. And we'll stop there because then you have just the one little U to UE verb, which is jugar. That's the only one you need to know. Now, keep in mind, this is not a list of every single stem changing verb that exists. Okay? We only have some of our stem changing verbs here. So just keep that in mind. I'm just giving you a list of some of them. This is not all of them. Okay? So I'm just going to flip through these, and I want you to fill the meanings and the conjugations in on your notes. And I'm just going to go through this quickly, but obviously keep in mind that you can pause as I go so that you can copy these verbs. And notice that these verbs can be any type of verb. They can be AR verbs, they can be ER verbs, they can be IR verbs. Okay, it can be all three kinds. So there's your ODUE list. Here is your E to IE list. Got pensar, to think or plan. Preferir, to prefer. Empezar is to start or begin. Tener means to have. And one interesting thing about tener is that it's a stem changing verb, but it also has an irregular yo form. Okay, so that will not take the stem change, that irregular yo form. Querer is to want. And venir is to come. And venir also has that matching irregular yo. It's vengo. On the next page, you have servir, to serve. That is an E to I. Pedir, another E to I verb, is to ask for or to order. And then our one U to UE verb is jugar, to play. So you should be able to draw a boot around every single verb, and you will notice that the nosotros forms are not changing. So please, when you're done copying, just go back and draw your boots to make sure that you did not stem change in the nosotros form. So I'm going to be checking next class when I walk around and check these that you have your boots filled in. Okay, every verb should get a boot. And when we do these, we'll just leave the yo form out because they do take that irregular yo. So that will remind you that those are not going to change. Same thing with venir. Oops, I went up a little too far there. And one last section, drawing my boot around my verbs. Leaving the nosotros form out because it does not take the stem change. Okay, and that is going to be it for today. So we're almost done with this note packet. We have one more section left after this video. Okay, so I will be checking these next class. Gracias por escucharme y tengas un buen día. Adiós.